Hi everyone, welcome back today. What we're going to be looking at today is I'm going to drain the fuel from this and I'm going to clean that carb. That's priority number one. Priority number two is doing the front indicators. I bought a new set for it, and this hopefully should be okay today, but it's not happy, and with it running with such little oil in it, this could be finished. This bike could be over. The exhaust has come out nice and black. This extra shiny bit is just the extra bit of oil. I'm not going to do much on this bike yet because he's not in a huge rush. The one thing I'm going to do is, you see how flat this tyre is, as in not just airless but flat. It means it's been sitting for a long time without any air in it, and that can ruin the tyre. So I'm just going to throw some air in these tyres for now so that they hold their shape again. Otherwise these tyres get ruined. Also, this wheel does not spin, look. So the front brakes are seized on, so it needs a front brake service as well. The back should be fine if it's not a disc. Is it a drum? Yeah, it's a drum brake. Back brake will be fine, I'm sure. I can test that actually. Yeah, look at that. Drums are better in regards to that. Discs kind of seize on. So front brakes need doing. So I'm going to just put some air in the tyres today. And I've got the battery. I might fire it up later because there's an exhaust rattle and the speedo doesn't work. So I'm going to be looking at what's going on with that. So possibly next week, that one. This is the priority. Now I haven't got my camera stand, so I can't film much. I actually stood on it yesterday and ruined it. But basically these two bolts come off on both sides, that one and the one on the other side, and then you wrestle it out because it's awkward because the airbox back here is on it, and you then look at the cleaning stuff when you've got it off. We can then look at what this choke's doing. What we might find is that this choke is stuck on or stuck off anyway and it's not opening. We might find that, but we don't know. So I'm gonna start working my way in here and try and get all this loosened up and on its way out, and we'll then look at the carb, hopefully, if I can get it off nicely. Okay, so here we are. Here's the carb. Choke wise, there's the choke. So up is on, down is off, medium is half. So up is full choke. I'm sure it was only running yesterday on full choke, I'm sure. So down is off, so I'm filming that so that I remember more than anything. I'm draining the fuel with my ingenious setup there. The fuel seems okay, but you just can never tell. These carbs are so temperamental that any kind of jamming up in them, gumming up, anything just ruins it. So I'm going to pop the float bolt off and we'll see what we're working with. I'm trying desperately to hold the camera so you can see this is real time. I've not looked into this carb, so I don't know what's going on in there. I'm going to order a new stand. I'll have a new stand for next weekend. I've got quite an exciting project next weekend. I've got someone coming who snapped their spark plugs. Sorry about this filming. They snapped their spark plugs, 2 spark plugs, into their Bandit 400 head. So we're going to be looking at if we can salvage that. That'll be exciting. That's next weekend. Now the fact that this is so stiff, it is automatically bothering me. Oh wow, look, is that, oh, is that just the floor? Oh my god, you see the colour of that? That can't be. Is that coming out the carb or is that my floor? This carb could be terrible. I'm gonna just stop the camera for a minute so I can take the bowl off using 2 hands. Okay, so here we are. It is quite bad for the fuel to be for the colour to change. It's quite bad. There seems to be rust in there. if that's in the bowl, then the actual carb itself will be a bit gummed up. And then the other thing is the tank may have rust in the tank, so we'll have to consider that. I've got loads of inline fuel filters, but it's a free flowing system. I might have to put one in just to stop this happening again. At the moment the bowl needs a clean, and I'm gonna pop out the jets and have a little look at them, see what they're like. So the jets were slightly blocked, okay? I could tell that because when I sprayed my product through, my super cleaner there, it's a good cleaner. That it's a metal cleaner, it's a carb cleaner. Again, that comes from Jake Corb. That's where I get all my products from on eBay. He's a great guy. He does all the jetting, all the cleaners, carb cleaners, brakes, everything. So if you need anything, Jake Corb, you go into it's JAKECORB, write it into eBay, click on user, looking for user, and he'll come up. Otherwise, you can always message me. But yeah, so the bowl needs a good clean. I've taken the gasket out because the kind of rust stuff has got around there, and I just want to spray some of the product in. Now if you look at the colour straight away, that see-through product has gone, then it, you know, that's bad. It's in a bad state. So I'm going to give it a minute to kind of soak, and then I'm going to give it a good clean. Now I'm going to go through all the channels on here. The actual fuel channel there, these two spouts here, they will come out down there, and I'm going to spray up through there as well. I'm also going to do the air fuel mixture there. I'm going to count how many screws in it goes, so I know the baseline setting. Pull it out, clean it, put it back into that same setting. I'm not going to mess with that setting at this stage because there's no point. That's it. That's a carb clean. That should do it. It's justice. I'm going to make sure the bowl is fully clean, and then I'm going to look at the tank, put fresh fuel in, and probably put an inline filter in to make sure this doesn't happen again. Chances are that tank's rusty. So yeah, I'm going to spray through all them channels and put this back together, and this part to an extent should be sorted. So all we're doing right now is just putting it all back together. The back end's in. I'm just going to tighten up this bolt so that the air box is attached. Push this forward, tighten up these two bolts. Make sure the slide is in. The slide is in. Make sure it's in properly. Make sure this is bolted down, screwed down even. Otherwise you might find that you have to pop it all back off again. So that's this bit here, that's the slide. Tighten up the air box, and then I'm going to put the inline fuel filter on and we'll get it going. I've looking at that fuel that we just drained out. It's really not that bad. It's not discoloured. I'm going to tip a little bit out. It smells normal. What I'll do is I'll tip some into a see-through carton to see if there's any water or anything in it. After doing all this work, it's best to get rid of that fuel and put fresh fuel in anyway. It'd be really silly to put that back through if, for example, it had water in it or anything. So that's what I'm going to do, get rid of that and get some fresh fuel. So I'm going to put that back together. I'll show you the inline filter and we'll go from there. Okay, so when I transferred that old fuel to clear containers, lots of red rust, sandy stuff came out, like that, what came out there from the carb. So inline filter, there's the inline filter. Believe it or not, the inline filter comes from Jake Corb. Yeah, he supplied me with, I've got like 100 of these or 200, which is nice. But that's going to go basically in here, so I'll cut here, put that on that side, and hope it doesn't stop flow too much, because there is a potential that might happen, but it shouldn't do. Basically, once this fills up, the flow should continue back to normal. So we'll see. So I cut there, put this on both sides, secure it with cable ties or whatever we've got, and I'm going to grab some fresh fuel and we should be ready to go. This bike should fire up pretty much first time. At least with choke on it should. If it doesn't, then we're really, then the bike's kind of had it, I think. You'd be looking at compression and so on. I mean, I don't think this bike's worth keeping now anyway. I think the bike's finished. But obviously if the lady wants to keep it, that's absolutely fine. So let's get that done. I'm going to throw this in. Make sure there's an arrow on here. Make sure the arrow goes the right way. There's the arrow. So the arrow goes in the direction of the flow. So the arrow points, so you want this up at the tank and the arrow towards the carb, I believe. Yes, that's right. Exactly like that. Can you see that? There's the arrow. Arrow towards the carb, and then it all gets filtered out. Brilliant. I'll show you when I've put that on. Okay, so I've got a fresh fuel now. There's the new inline fuel filter there. I've changed this pipe to a slightly thicker diameter pipe, and I think I want to do the same to the other side. And I'm going to be topping up the fuel. The tank's definitely rusty and dirty, so I'm going to have to be careful. And then switch the fuel on. The filter will filter out any of that rust and crap, and then this bike should be a normal running bike. So I'm going to top up the tank, switch the fuel on, you know, hopefully it all goes through into the carbs properly clean, and then we should have a normal running bike. If we do have a normal well running bike, I'm going to change the front indicators to ones I bought for this bike, and I'm going to tighten the chain because the chain is extremely loose. Let me show you. Okay, so the chain needs doing as well. So that's the next steps for this bike. So topping it up, trying to get it running and riding, and if that's the case, cleaning it and sorting out the last few bits. Okay, so I've put the whole 5 litres in, and it doesn't show up as much on there, funny enough. Or maybe it just keeps creeping up over. Oh yeah, it does. Keeps creeping. Okay, cool. So where are we? So let's see here. This is empty at the moment. Let's turn the fuel on. See that? Builds up in there, filters the fuel, and then lets it through to the other side into the carb. Now I've already forgot what the choking system was down, on, or off. I'm actually going to have to go back through my video and see if I can get that correct again and work that out. Ideally I'd like to start it without choke, but because it's a warm enough day, you know, but if it needs choke it will. I'm going to put this side panel on so we're not filtering too much air, and we'll see if this thing starts. So after having a look at my video, down is off, so we want the choke all the way down under normal use. Great, so let's fire this thing up. Now anything could happen here. It's cold, it might not fire because it might need some choke. That's fine, we can solve that problem. It might be as terrible as it was before. It ran so low on oil that the pistons may just be past it, the rings may have burnt out, there may not be enough compression. That's you know, a possibility. It could fire up and rev up because I haven't adjusted the revs on the carb, and so on and so on. But let's see what happens. This is absolutely the first start up since the carb clean. So I think that was quite positive. That started first time. Fuel flow seems okay. Let's go again. Now I'm going to give it a few minutes to kind of warm up. So the choke is not on. There's no choke at all. Ooh, what was that? That sounds terrible. It might have been chain slap, but I mean the chain's not even under tension. That's just vibrations turning that. See? Notice how it revs up and down, up and down. It shouldn't be doing that. As far as I'm aware, WD's flammable. Let's see what the connections are like. If I spray this in, it should either rev up or it should die down. That's interesting. Is that me? Is that now fueling off WD as well? Let's see if that dies down. I don't know. At least it's idling. I'm going to wait for it to warm up a bit and then we'll look at, I'll take it for a quick spin. It still has a weird sound every now and again. Can you hear that? It has that very weird lumpy sound, and now it's revving itself up again. What a pain. What is that noise? It's like it's misfiring, but it's obviously not. Okay, well, I'd say the bike was warm. Let's adjust the idle a bit. Because we don't want to idle at 3000. And I don't necessarily want to go much lower than 2. It just sounds so bad, this engine, that you just can't tell. Yeah, alright, I think that's about right. Okay. Do you know what? Now it's warm and the idle's low, it don't sound too bad. Okay, alright, cool. So, plan from here, I'm gonna do the chain tension. That needs doing desperately, that's dangerous. And give it a bit of a clean and do the front indicators, they might be a bit of a pain. And then I'm ready to give this bike back. But we'll see. Yes, alright. I'll show you the tensioning of the chain, but I've shown you before. Basically, you undo the actual main bolt on the wheel, and then you use these bolts, undo this locking nut here, and you would push this in. Hang on, we want to pull the chain back, so what would we do? We would loosen this up to pull the chain back. I'll have to check that at the time. And then we use these notches here to see how far back we are, or we can measure this gap. So that's fairly straightforward, but the chain is dangerously loose, so we have to do it a touch. So I'll look at that now in a minute. Great. So like I said, this nut here, undo this nut, this loosens the wheel. Oh my god. Look guys. That is unbelievable. Okay, so the nut wasn't tight anyway. That's so bad. Right, so that's loose, and then we do the loosening of the front one here, the lock nut, and then we look at pulling back, so actually pushing this forward. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go... Oh, why are they so different already though? Let's see, are we using the notches? No, that's fine. So we're going to go like half a turn each. So I'll go half a turn on this side, then half a turn on that side, and then I'll check the gaps to make sure it's all normal. I'm not going to go that far, because when you tension a chain, as in when you take it off the stand, it takes up some of the slack. But this is still too loose even for now. So these nuts next, pushing these forward half a turn each to even out, measuring the gap at the front, or making and looking at a notch there, and we should have it spot on. Okay, so the chain's done. It has to have the plate in it when it's on the stand. Look at this, about an inch, because when you take it off the stand it tensions itself. So that's all okay at this stage, because it's nice and taut when it's off. There's no petrol spill at the moment from any of the carb or anything. That's great, because the tap is still on. I'm going to be looking at these now. Now I know they work, but they're rubbish. So all I'm going to do is, how are these mounted? So I need to get into here. You see the bolts in there. That's it, that big bolt there. I don't know if this pivots though. I'm going to try and work this out. I basically wanted to pivot this out. I thought it was on the, but it's not like that. So I might just drop the light. That's probably my best bet. So I'll take these two bolts off here, drop the light, and then work in there and throw the new ones on. So when you get to this stage, you've loosened everything up. The actual connections are under here, under the light. So there's one there, for example, and then the orange is there. And what's the other colour on there? Light blue. So we're looking for a light blue one. They're basically all in there somewhere. Oh, I can't see a light blue one, but we'll work that out. Let's look at the new bulbs. They were down here. There you go. Alright, so just yellow and black. So that's not helpful, but not the end of the world either. So we put them in. We connect them up. I assume the black is the earth, so the black should be the green on here. So both black will go to this one here. And then the other colour will go to... There you go. There's the other two right there. So all we have to do is remember that this side's now blue, so I'll do one side at a time. I'll disconnect the blue, put this one in there, you know, nip it all up, and then the yellow will go in there and the black will go in there. So I screwed it on, put the wires through, put the yellow into the blue and the green into the black, and now we need to check it. So front right, this will be excellent. Front right on. That means the other side will be fine using the colours we've got. So I'll do the same thing with the other sides, polish this up a little bit while it's off, and then we're good to go with the indicators. Okay, so here's the kind of final touches from my part. It needs a good clean. Look at this. Wow! Needs a good clean. So I'm going to clean it down as much as I can, just with a cloth and some spray. And then I'm going to use my cutting compound on some of it. Just a really quick hand buff. And I'll put a bit of wax on it just to bring it up to shine. So let's just do a bit of the before and after. So there you go. It's very messy. I'm not going to be able to get in there because this stupid chain is in the way. But the tank's in a quite bad condition. And up here is all quite dirty. And then we'll do a nice shiny after, hopefully. The indicators are on, they do work. Let's double check actually. Front left, great. Front right, perfect. So the bike's, you know, looking much better than it was. There you go. Right. I didn't know the side light always stays on. That's interesting. Ah. Parking light. Right. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a bit of a clean. So there's the first pass. That's just a basic clean. It's come up okay. It's just a bit shinier. I took the chain off. I didn't realise I had the key on the main keys. And this bit, the chain is ruining all the paint back here because it's bouncing up and down. All I'm going to do now is do a really fine pass with my turtle wax cutting compound, just to buff away the top bad layer of anything. It might get rid of most of this, and it will just give me a nice finish to the bike at this stage. So that's the next step. So that's the aftermath of a very light quick buff. I'm not messing with all this, haven't got the time, it doesn't matter, and a new one's going over it anyway. Very light quick buff, so that's great. I'm going to put a coat of wax on it as well, just to kind of help it and keep it in good shape for the next 6 months. And then we should be good to go. I don't know if I've got any just black stuff just to kind of bring that back up. If I could be bothered, I'd whip that off and spray it black, but that chain goes around it, it'll ruin it anyway. So yeah, I've got a quick thin coat of wax just to protect the paint that's left. So there we are, guys, the Zontes Mantis 125. I've done the best I could with it. So its carb was cleaned, inline fuel filter put in, chain was tightened and tensioned, front indicators were changed, old fuel was drained, new fuel was put in, and bits and pieces, battery was charged. It seems to start easier. Let's double check that. Now yesterday when I rode this, it cut out on me like 30 seconds down the road, so I'm going to go and give it a good test ride now. I could set up the helmet cam, but it takes a little while, so I'm not going to bother. I'll just let you guys know when I'm back how it runs and rides. The fact that it starts with no choke is great. That means the carb is running at its best, and so on. So yeah, I'm going to take it for its little spin up and down the road, come back, and I'll let you know exactly how it drives. The filter has got fuel in it, that's great. That means fuel is flowing through constantly. That's good. There's no signs of a fuel leak. When I get back, I'll check the oil again, top it up to its max, because obviously the bike's not overly looked after, so I might as well give it another year of life if I can. So yeah, let me take it for this spin and see how it goes. That's it for the test ride, guys. It ran very well, no issues there. The only thing I would say, I mean, nothing was wrong, although actually the shocks really felt loose, but there's probably a bit more play there than I'd like. But the only thing I would do now in the near future, 6 months, I'd change this filter. So she should really bring it back to me in 6 months' time, because that filter's filtering all the whatever's left, the crap in that tank. So to keep this bike running well, that will need changing in 6 months, and so on. And if we just double check the oil again, we have to let it settle down. There. I'm going to give it a minute because it has to settle back down because it's circulating the engine, and then I will just kind of top it up to its max so that the bike's, you know, going to be alive for another year. I'm quite do I like the bike? No, but I'm pleased that it turned out okay. That's the best it's driven. I rode it the other day, I started it the first day, it was crap. So that is the best it's driven, and it drove very similar to my Benelli there, so I think it'll be fine now. I think you'll get 6 months to a year out of it, so I'm glad. I'm going to message her, tell her bike's ready, she can pick it up over the next few days. I'm pleased, she'll get another 6 months out of that bike at least. Great. We'll move on to this one. I've got the battery for it. I'm just going to pump the tyres like I said earlier. I didn't do that, I've been lazy. I'm going to fire it up. Apparently it has an exhaust rattle that's driving him mad, and the speedo don't work. So with the speedo, we'll just whack this off here at the bottom and turn it by hand, and we'll see if the clocks turn. If they do, it means it's an internal problem, one that I don't normally mess with, but I can do if needed. The exhaust rattle, if there was an exhaust rattle, you'd hear it on vibrations. So there's nothing obviously loose there. It's a very complex bike. Yeah, so I don't know, I'll have to get it fired up and we'll see what this rattle is. Yeah, and then it's basic tyre pumping and so on. So we'll have a little look at this in a bit. It's quite a nice bike. Well, it's quite ugly actually.